What's going on, guys? I'm going to share with you one of the biggest money hacks that you can possibly ever hear about. Now, look, this business hack can literally be used by anybody. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. It doesn't matter if you're a mom or a dad, if you're in school, if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, if you are trying to become the top athlete at your high school, at college, you go to the pros. It doesn't matter. This will literally work for just about anybody if you actually utilize it to match your goals. This money hack can be used a multitude of different ways. And the first one is actually not the ideal one that you want to use. And it's actually the one that I was stuck with for a very, very long time. So what is that? So money hack number one is the traditional one that we all know, right? It's basically saving money. It's trying to figure out how to do all these things, how to accomplish the things that we want in our day-to-day and save X amount of money to accomplish something or to buy something or work extra hours to save more money, or I'm going to take care of some extra things around the house so that I can save the money, blah, 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 right? There's literally like 1,000 different things. Let me give you an actual solid example. So before I tell you that example, I need you guys to understand money hack number two is actually 10 times stronger than this one. So you're going to want to hear the end of this video to actually understand why hack number two is actually better. So giving you an example of hack number one is, for example, you can take your car to the car wash, right? And you're going to spend $30 to $50, right? You might think to yourself, you know what? I'm going to wash my car at the house and I'm going to save those $50, right? What does it cost? Maybe, I'll buy a brush, I'll use some dish soap, I'll grab a bucket that might cost me like $5 to $10, if that, and I can use that over and over and over again every single week, every single month, etc. Even if you did it once a month, right? You're probably thinking like, hey, I'll save $50 a month. I do it twice a month. I save $100 a month. And look, that's great. It works, right? So if you keep looking at every single part of your spending habits, where else could you cut? Where else could you take the extra time to actually get it done and save the money, right? It's the same thing like instead of hiring a cleaner, you just clean your own house. Instead of doing Instacart and having food delivered to your house or Uber Eats or things like that, you just cook the food, right? It's probably cheaper. Go to the grocery store, right? Hey, instead of going to a high-end grocery store, I'm going to go to the cheapest one. You can literally think about this from any single angle. Like literally from so many angles, you can find a way to cut expenses, right? And the more that you cut, the more that you save. But here's the big problem when it comes to this method. The big problem is that you can only cut so much money, right? If you're making, I'm going to say $10,000, right? And your rent's $4,000, and maybe these numbers might seem kind of crazy, so just adjust them to what you would make, right? Then you got a car payment, then you got insurance. And if you have a family, I'm assuming when I say $10,000, I'm talking about a household, a couple with kids, or it could be just one person, but let's just use an example of family making $10,000 per month, right? Then you got groceries, you got utility bills, you got recreational stuff like, hey, we're gonna go do something for fun, entertainment. When you just keep adding everything up, let's say you have $1,500 left at the end of the month, right? You're saving $1,500 per month, and then you start looking at all these things like, where can I cut? Where can I cut? Where can I cut? You might be able to bring those expenses down to a point where instead of saving $1,500 a month, you might be saving $2,000 a month, which is great. But here's the thing. I did that for I don't know how many years back in the day. Like I am a budgeting like ninja, honestly. Like I will find every single penny, not every single dollar, every single hundred, every penny, and adjust my expenses as much as possible to be able to save more. Like that's what I did back in the day. But eventually it hit me. Eventually I realized, and I learned this from a couple entrepreneurs, I'm sure in the online space, or I read a book or a combination of all, that you can only cut so much. Think about it. You can only cut so many expenses to a certain degree, right? You might be able to cut one or two things every single month for a few months, but eventually you're going to get to a point where you're going to realize like, I can't really cut anymore. Like this is literally the threshold and I cannot save more money. And so if you wanted to save more, if you wanted to invest more, what are you going to do? The only other solution is obviously to make more money, which we've talked about that in other videos. But let's assuming you aren't making more money right now, right? Let's assume that you can't cut anymore. What would be another way of doing this? And you guys are going to think I'm crazy for saying this, but this is where hack number two comes in. And hack number two is you're actually going to spend more money to make more money. Now you're probably going to be like, okay, this makes no sense. Like, how am I going to make more money while saving less money and spending more money? Like, that just doesn't make any any sense. Well, let me give you an example. Some of those examples that I actually gave you already, you would actually use them in reverse, right? Most people would say like, hey, I'm not going to spend on these things because I'm going to save the money. But what if instead you actually did spend that money? What could you possibly do with all that extra time that you save? And again, these numbers that I'm going to give you guys are just rough numbers. You can adjust them for where you live. You can adjust them for what they actually are for you. And they might be too low, they might be too high, right? I'm just going to use these numbers as examples. But let's assume you're going to the car wash, $50 twice a month. And let's assume that takes 1 to 2 hours, right? You take the car. It's assuming that that's twice a month. And then it takes you 1 to 2 hours possibly washing your car, right? It's going to be 1 to 2 hours. On top of that, after the 2 hours of washing your car, you might be a little bit tired. You might be a little fatigued, right? Because washing a car is not that easy. I say this because I've done it before. I literally used to do this all the time to save money. If you do that, right, let's just say that's 5 to 7, even 8 hours a month that you were trying to save money by washing your car. But instead, what could you have been doing with those, let's just call it 8 hours a month from washing your car, keeping it clean, saving $100, right? You saved $100 for the month, but what did it cost you? It costed you 8 hours of the day. And even if we say 6 hours, right? Because you might think like, oh, there's no way it's going to take you 8 hours. It's not 4 hours every single car wash. It's only 2. Look, I was just adding in a buffer because I remember when I used to wash a car, even the setup process, the washing, the afterwards, I'd be like, I don't want to do anything for the next hour. Let's say we do 6 hours. If you divide $100 by 6 hours, that comes out to about $17.50 or something like that. $18. Let's say it's about $18, right? So you are saving yourself $18 per hour by just doing it yourself. What if you could make $50 an hour doing something? Think about that. What could you do in those 6 hours per month where you can make $200 instead of $100? You don't actually think you could make $200 in 6 hours versus 100, right? That might be working a couple extra hours of overtime. That might be starting a side hustle. That might be spending time working on your business. It might not make you money right away, right? But in the long run, it could. And so 6 hours might not seem like much, but now think about all the other things where you're doing just that, right? Where instead of hiring somebody to clean for you, you're cleaning yourself. Okay, instead, let's hire the person. You save a couple more hours there, right? Let's add in now another 6 to 8 hours a month right there. Now we're sitting at around 12 to 15 hours a month, right? Let's talk about buying groceries. Would it be cheaper to find or go buy food somewhere that is very cheap, or buy the exact same food every single time and cook it that's going to take you just a couple of minutes versus trying to make an elaborate dinner all the time, right? It might cost you more money to maybe order Uber Eats or some type of delivery system like that, but how much time would you save, right? You don't need to go to the grocery store. You don't need to cook. You don't need to wash dishes. So in the long run, you're going to save time. You're going to save more hours. So now just think about how many more hours that's going to be that you're adding back into the month. And so look, I know that buying food through these different types of services is significantly more expensive, but here's the big but. What if you just didn't look at it that way, right? And this might not be for everybody, right? I'm not telling you to stop cooking and then just start overeating everything, because there could be a way where you grocery shop and it's significantly cheap and you can cook really, really fast. If you're somebody who cooks the exact same stuff and it's very, very basic, maybe it's not worth it for you to be doing Uber Eats every time. Maybe you should continue buying the groceries because it's actually not taking up a lot of your time. So you guys get to look at all that. Like, it's all individually based, but I think you guys are getting the logic. It doesn't matter what it is or how it's done, right? So just with those 3 examples, right? Whether it's cleaning your home, getting your car wash done, buying groceries, or ordering food, if you look down your list of all the expenses that you're spending on and where you're spending your time at, you will literally find with those 3 things that we just talked about, there's about 20 to 30 hours a month right there, right? There's about 20 to 30 hours a month that you can possibly save. That goes to the food thing, the grocery stuff, the car washes. You might end up spending an extra $500 to $1,000 a month. Yeah, it's gonna happen, right? So instead of saving your $2,000, hey, I'm only saving $750, $1,000 now. Okay, but you got an extra 30 hours on your hands now, an extra 20 hours. What are you gonna do with those 20 hours? What could you possibly create with those 20 hours? What if you just got a second job, a part-time job that pays you double what you currently make? What if you went back to your current employer and said like, hey, can I get overtime? Or you know what? I'm not going to make any money for the next 3 months, but I'm going to work on my business. I'm going to start this new service-based business, this product. I'm going to just learn about all these different things. In the long run, it's all going to pay back, right? And it might not sound like it today. I am willing to guarantee this because I've literally done it. I've literally was that guy that saved every single penny. And eventually, once I started learning more and more and more about finances and business, leverage, and all these different things, I was like, dude, like it's a never ending hole. Like I'm eventually going to get to a wall that I can't save anymore. And so when that finally clicked for me, I made the shift and I went the complete opposite spectrum. Like, how can I possibly make the most amount of money that I can possibly make? Honestly, like that was one of the first big decisions that I made. I just completely started changing my life. Today, yeah, I still budget. Yeah, I still look at all these things because it still matters. At the end of the day, like some of the richest people in the world, like you track your finances. Like you just do. Everybody does to a certain point. There are some people who are just really, really wealthy who just don't really care, right? But even some of the wealthiest people do the same thing, right? There's some form of budgeting that's still in place. And there's also some form of leveraging to maximize and make more money. So you guys get to find that middle ground for you. But I'm hoping that these two things that I gave you guys right now can absolutely change the way you look at finances. It could probably even completely transform your life. So that is all I got for you guys today, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.